the lives of people, and that the construction of this health post is in fulfillment of his government's national development plan. As with similar inaugurations, the president presents an ambulance to the health post for its operations in the community. The next place visited by the president was one of the stations of the National Research Institute in Yundum, where he was shown developments in the center on research on varieties of plants and crops. Speaking at the Nari station, the president stressed the need for diversification of agricultural production in the country. Following the site visit to Nari, residents of Old Yundum and Busumbala constituencies received the president for joint meeting and dialogue at Wellingara, which paved the way for the residents of the constituencies to outline their development aspirations on social amenities such as access to good roads and water.
Talk about 4 hours.
The name for Busumbala constituency, Sekuba Jaju, who recognizes the president's development record, also explains to the president the development constraints in his constituency. Also, the former Minister of Agriculture, Omar O.J. Jallo, takes to the podium and speaks about the development gains of the Barrow-led government.
Yundum Health Center. Naba Kanere. Ela store. Nga fayele. Anda manga ka makede. Aba kanne. Bara manga follow. Lefta eke.
Damane. Adama Baro. Lim def ci rew mi ci juromi at yi. Ay mo kany banko ko ni sañu lu ko. Ci njariñ rew mi. Banko na faka. Ak li yobu rew mi kanam. Ala mo banko sa bala ñaato. Damane. Sambañ rek moko dul gis.
In his address at the meeting, President Adama Barrow, who lived in the old Yundum constituencies for a decade until in 2016 before assuming office, confirms he is aware of the problems facing the communities and pledges his commitment to addressing them. On the roads project in the constituencies, the president has an update.
Amna yoon buy dem Banjulunding bobu study nañ ko because gis nañ fi so bëggé jaar fi yoon yoyu rek nga mëna jaar pour dem ci highway bi dem Brikama. Main road boo xam ne moom moo war a jaar Nema Kunku boobu story nañ ko fu mu nekk nii ñu ngi assess yoon bi dinañ liggéey yoon boobu waaye yoon buy jógee Wellingara continuer dem ba Sukuta boobu story nañ ko joxe nañ contract bi liggéey baa ngee door si.
This event marks the end of the presidential Meet the People tour in the West Coast region and will continue tonight at the Buffer Zone in Kanifing Municipality in Talinding, where another large crowd is expected for dialogue with the president. Mohamed Lamin Choy, QTV News.
The Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources, in partnership with the UNDP Country Office, on Wednesday held a session in appreciation and acknowledgement of the Gambia's overall global leadership on climate action. Omar P. Jallo reports.
An environmental watchdog that assesses whether nations' environmental plans are sufficient, insufficient, or almost insufficient based on mitigation targets, policies, actions, and climate actions, revealed that globally, only the Gambia's plans are compatible with the Paris Agreement, a binding international treaty on climate change. Alpha A.K. Jallo, the Director of Climate Change Secretariat at the Ministry of Environment, said despite the dire warning that the world risks soon hitting 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature rise in global warming by the 2030s, new analysis has found that none of the world's major economies have sufficient plans to combat climate change.
We are in track meeting the Paris temperature goal of 2 degrees and further by 1.5 degrees by 2050.
The UNDP resident representative in the Gambia yesterday said the news of Gambia's status as a global climate leader came as no surprise to the UNDP because the government through the Ministry of Environment is committed to the Paris Climate Agreement. She applauded Gambians and gave an assurance of her office's continuous support.
UNDP is confident that if needed, support could be provided from development and bilateral partners. The Gambia will indeed be successful in achieving its indices. UNDP remains committed into supporting government through the development of new partnership within the area of climate change mitigation, as we are all heading also to the COP26.
Lamin Diba, the Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources, said despite the country's insignificant share of global greenhouse gases emissions, the Gambia is recognized internationally as amongst the world's developing countries with an ambitious conditional emission target that direct its emission on a downward trajectory. Minister Diba commended the UNDP and other partners for their contributions in the Gambia's attainment of this achievement.
Gambia government is very much sensitive to climate change and all its related issues. This is why we're putting up not only our NDC, but the NDC will be supported by other tools, like the long-term vision. The objective of this long-term vision is to complement what we have already in the NDC, and that is, by 2050, we have zero net carbon emission. So what that calls for is for decarbonization of the economy.
The goal of the Paris Climate Agreement is to maintain 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold. However, experts say that without steep reduction in carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases emissions, the world will surpass that target within 80 years. Although people are suffering from even more severe and frequent impacts of climate change around the globe, the feasibility and urgency of climate change mitigation actions to reduce greenhouse gases emission continues to lag behind, as the majority of the G20 countries have failed to meet their obligations according to the report. For now, the Gambia is out of its own as a global leader in this field, which is something worth celebrating. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
Moving on, the Center for Policy Research and Strategic Studies on Tuesday held a day-long capacity building training for media practitioners on how to accurately report election results ahead of the December 4th presidential elections. And Suman Esonyasi reports.
Expected to be released on Friday, this maiden opinion poll is one of 3 polls to be conducted by CEPRAS prior and post the December 4th presidential elections. Given the sensitive nature of elections and the important role the media plays in creating awareness, disseminating election-related information and results, journalists representing various news outlets are being trained on how to accurately report results of what officials say is the maiden opinion poll to be held in the Gambia. Lamin Damfa, Executive Secretary of the Center for Policy Research and Strategic Studies, says his agency, with the support of partners such as the National Endowment for Democracy, had trained enumerators who conducted the survey, covering 34 districts and 969 households, and revealed that results of the first polls will be made public on Friday and that all political parties and presidential aspirants and CSOs have been invited.
When these reports are out, we expect that different stakeholders will be able to take stock of what was presented in order for them to understand the dynamics and what people say in general about those issues, so that they take necessary steps in trying to address them. And in particular, the political parties, for example, could also use these results. Try to re-strategize on issues, what people actually want in try to address it.
Dr. Hamidou Jawara, one of the lead researchers, says the survey was conducted in a professional manner and covered all regions in the country. He also called on all stakeholders in the political space to show an interest in the results when they are released on Friday.
We are actually looking forward to welcoming a lot of stakeholders in that event, particularly those that have interest on, opinion poll survey, but in particular what Gambians right now are thinking on issues that are of national interest, whether it has to do with voting, government performance, peaceful elections, and a lot of other issues.
For participants, Yankuba Jallo and Aisa Tamba, reporters with Foria and the Standard newspapers, respectively, appreciated the timeliness of the training and thanked CEPRAS for the opportunity to enhance their capacities on reporting election results.
This is the first time we have opinion polls, and then we need to understand how to analyze the data and how to report it to the public. Because if we do not understand, we cannot give the accurate information to the audience, and they deserve to know exactly what the general opinion is. And also, opinions matter in election.
December election is just at the corner, so this survey and this training will help me understand more of people's opinion and all that, and this training will help me also know how to report accurately during the election period.
As Gambians anticipate the opinion poll results, CEPRAS officials hope the survey will contribute to the advancement of the country's democratic process. Cyprus has been involved in various research to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of people and organizations through optimal utilization of their human and material resource capacities. The organization remains one of the country's leading and most reputable centers for research, consulting, and professional training. Ansmane Sonyasi for KTV News.
From that story, we will go for a short commercial break. Still to come, we have more stories. Do stay tuned.
Easiest way to receive money transfers from abroad? Well, Q-Money and RIA just made it happen. Now you can receive international money transfer from RIA directly into your Q-Money account with no additional cost. Once you receive an SMS alert about your transfer, walk into any Q-Money agent across the country to receive your payment for free or use the money immediately to buy credit, Q-Power and other Q-Money services. It's fast, safe and convenient. For more info, call customer care on 133. Q-Money, Sunu Kalpe. Terms and conditions.
Welcome back. Now, forests and oceans play an important role in socio-economic development and in helping mitigate the impact of climate change. Abibatu Sise engaged various stakeholders on the importance of preserving them. Here is her report.
The soothing sound of the birds and the gentle breeze from the trees. The sound made by insects highlights the beauty of nature and coexistence. The forest is much more than a collection of trees. It serves as a source of oxygen and food for survival. With the increasing trend of climate crisis resorting to global warming, frequent windstorms, droughts, flooding, and wildfires, among others, trees help to reduce the greenhouse gases that causes climate change. Omar Sidibe, the head of plantation at Nyambai Forest, says forests support both humans and wildlife and advises people to protect the environment by planting more trees.
Whoever you know that you are venturing in tree cutting, please go in for tree planting, because these are the two things that can replicate each other. Yeah, this is something you need. You take it out there, but you know that the place you take it out, it also needs something. Bring that thing there, so you will see, you will have your benefits while the environment is improving and is protected.
Together Africa Gambia organization is among advocacy groups for the protection of the environment. The president of the organization, Lamin Jame, says people are destroying the forest by deforestation, bushfires, illegal logging and indiscriminate dumping.
We all protect our forests as we are environmentalists. We are not giving any chance to anybody. Our forests need to be protected, and this is the message that we are sending to the general public, to make sure, let them help us. Nobody is being paid here, but we are doing voluntarism. We make sure how we can protect our forests.
Like the forest, the ozone provides a habitat to millions of marine species. According to research, at least 8 million tons of plastic ends up in our oceans each year. Bori Tunkara, who loves going to the beach, blames people who go for beachside picnics.
The Gambia Tourism Board has provided bins to put litter, but people throw
singled out the Gambia as the only country in the world on track to meet the Paris Climate Agreement targets There is no room for complacency, and efforts to preserve and protect forests and oceans must continue and be sustainable. For QTV News, I am Abibatu Sise.
Now in sports news, football is the nation's favorite sport, and Gambian football is the limelight after the country secured its first ever qualification to the Africa Cup of Nations Cameroon 2021. However, football lovers across the country are unhappy that there is little to show for the millions of dollars set aside by FIFA almost 5 years ago to develop football infrastructure in the country. In the special report, Bab Gassi finds out from the stakeholders what has happened to these millions and the adverse effect this is having on the development of football at the grassroots level.
On September 20th, 2021, the current Gambia Football Federation executive celebrated 7 years in office. The executive and staff can be credited with sustaining and developing the national leagues in the country, especially through the COVID-19 pandemic, registering the various national team categories in different competitions, including registering successes by the under-20s twice in WAFO competitions, capacity building for football stakeholders, with the biggest achievement undoubtedly being the Gambia's qualification to the Africa Cup of Nations for the first time. However, these successes have not shielded the Football Federation from criticism by stakeholders on the way they are running the game in the country, particularly in relation to the funds from FIFA meant to develop football infrastructure. The FIFA Forward initiative was launched in 2016 and set aside $2.8 billion globally for football development projects. The funds are available to be accessed by national federations from 2016 to 2022. For Africa, the FIFA Forward Impact Map shows that out of $717 million available, just over $439 million, accounting for 51% of the fund, has been approved or disbursed for 306 projects. Heading the list of projects expected to benefit is the proposed football parks renovation, with the Gambia Football Federation promising the stakeholders that they would develop and build 10 football mini-stadia in the country. The money to be used for this project works is from FIFA, who would ask for certain requirements and proposals before releasing funds. For the Gambia, FIFA data shows that $11.4 million has been available since 2016, of which $7.8 million has been approved. Since 2017, the Gambia Football Federation has been informing the public through their websites and other social media sites on project signings and money secured from FIFA to rehabilitate football pitches. However, stakeholders continue to ask questions about the many millions secured and why not a single football park has been completed up till now.
A very serious setback, really, to the development of football, especially from the grassroots level, for most of the big zones in the country. And I'm talking about Banjul, Serekunda, East, West, Brikama. Now, why I say it's a big setback, because this is where, over the last decade or two, where we have seen the growth and development of football been realized, in a very big way. The fact that the grounds are not usable for this Naweta and probably the next is really a major setback that the whole football community and sports fraternity should really take into consideration and address.
We took a trip to some of the football parks and communities that were earmarked for renovation to see what, if anything, has been done. Our first port of call was in Gunjur, Kombo South, to a community that has been unable to use their football ground for the past 4 years after renovation work promised by the GFF. We found a truck going in and out of the football park, bringing black sand to fill the main pitch. This ground has been under renovation for 4 years, and this is what we found. A perimeter wall appears to be the only work done here for 4 years after forcing the football community to live here and play its local Nawetan at a local football field. Dembo F. Ture is the president of the Gunjur Sports Committee.
GFF, they terminate the contract of the first contractor and then give it to another contractor.
Why did they terminate it?
Because the work was very, very slow, very slow. And secondly, when you come here, you do not feel that there is anything going on. There is no machinery around, there is nothing around. The workforce was very, very, very slow at us because going to the school was very stressful. We did not want to go to the school. We have to go to the school authorities and plead with them to allow us to use the school ground, which was not very good for us. And then we have to have some agreements with them that we have to sign to protect their properties and so forth. Some part of their fence was having a problem. We have to fix that fence. We spend a lot of money at the school. If we had been playing here, we wouldn't spend that amount of money. But that is the situation. We accept it that way.
After Gunjur, we visited Brikama. Here, the sports committee have the biggest task of all the committees we visited. Brikama Sports Committee relies on this football park, the Boxbar Mini Stadium, as the funds collected from the Nawetan is what they use to support their male first division team, the female team and volleyball team. Now that the ground remains under this lengthy renovation, their only option is to switch to a local football ground called the SSP. The executive of the sports committee is disappointed that the GFF failed to deliver the renovation on schedule.
Absolutely, we are very much disappointed, frustrated, as you can see, because Brikama Sports Committee, Boxbar is our source of income, everybody knows, because simply reason is we have responsibilities as a committee because we have teams that are under us, like Brikama United Football Club, male and volleyball, we have basketball, and also we have Brikama United female. Even athletics is under us. So it's a frustrating moment to us as far as this park is concerned. Yes. The entire Brikama is disappointed about it because if you know that you don't have enough fund, I don't think you should try a work which you know that it will not be finished. Because for us, even before removing this artificial turf, we have been playing. Though the turf was not very much good, but it does not stop us playing. Eventually, now everything is removed. Now we cannot do any activities here. We are very much disappointed.
This ends part 1 of this special report. In part 2, we look at some of the other uncompleted projects and on the Football Federation's reaction has been to the criticism. Babu Karsi, QTV News.
Before we end, here's a recap of our main headlines. Alongside his Midday People Tour, President Barrow on Tuesday inaugurated a new health post in Makumbaya and later held a meeting in Willingara in the West Coast region. The Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources, in partnership with the UNDP Country Office on Wednesday, held a session in appreciation and acknowledgement of the Gambia's overall global leadership on climate action. The Center for Policy Research and Strategic Studies on Tuesday held a day-long capacity-building training for media practitioners on how to accurately report election results ahead of the December 4th presidential elections. In sports news, we have brought you a special extended and exclusive report on what happened to the millions of dollars set aside by FIFA almost 5 years ago to develop football infrastructure in the country. Watch out for part 2 of this special report in tonight's news bulletin. Well, that's it from me in today's Midday News. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.